What are the 6 traps that can snare you when buying a new build? Let's dig in. Hey everybody, it's Alyson with Live South Denver, your real estate strategist and realtor for the South Denver area. You all know I'm a huge fan of buying a new build. But the reality is every home purchase comes with its pros and its cons. So today we're talking about the 6 potential traps and pitfalls that any home buyer can fall into when buying a new build. And these are the most common ones I see when I'm talking through all the options we have for new home buying. Number 1, the most known trap, the home price trap. But I still have people who are not aware of all the pitfalls around home price. For the most part, the prices shown on the builder's website are not the price you are going to pay when you go to closing for your new home. That price on the builder's website is their base price, kind of like the base model on a car, right? Most people don't want the base model for the car. They want the nice sound, they want the leather seats, they want maybe a moonroof, they want power everything. It's the same with a house. With a builder, you're gonna pay additional costs for the exterior of your home, how it looks. That's called the elevation. You're gonna pay a lot of money for the lot your home sits on. Then there are all of the selections you make to the interior of your home, and each one comes with its own dollar value. From fireplace to doors, door height, door type, to choosing a laundry sink, to how many bathroom sinks you'll have, and everything in between. And then there's the stuff that most people dream about, which is going to the design center. Picking your colors, picking your cabinet styles, picking countertops, flooring. Will you have any carpet in the house? Will you just upgrade that carpet? Will you have modern railings? All of that stuff adds up and in fact can be up to 60% over the base price of the home. Yep, I have clients who have had a home that was $900,000 in base price and they've finished over $1.4 million. Take that down a notch. Maybe you aren't even thinking of a home price that high. A $600,000 home can easily get into the $800,000 mark. So home pricing is always a hard pill to swallow when folks are calling me to talk about their budget. Now, there are a couple builders where you can find that all-in pricing and you don't have so much sticker shock. Lennar is one that guarantees you, right, whatever you see online, that's what the home's going to cost you. D.R. Horton is kind of getting to that place. They really aren't offering much in terms of options anymore because they're not releasing their homes until they're at spec. They've already dug out the foundation and started to frame, so generally you already know what everything is in the home. Now with other builders, if you want to know how much to back off of your max budget to know where to start with their base prices, each one's a little different, just reach out. I'm happy to help you with that. Trap number 2, the incentive trap. Builders market big sales, big incentives, TV, social media, their emails, and it all sounds so enticing. Here's the thing you need to know. Nearly every single time the use of their incentive offer is tied to you using their in-house lender. So when Toll Brothers is offering $75,000 off of a lot premium, or $25,000 in the design center, or Richmond Homes is offering their free basement incentive, or any of the builders are offering their fixed financing incentive, so you're getting 4.99 or 5.99 off of today's current rates in the 7s or 8s. Every single time they're requiring that you use the lender affiliated with the builder. Why? Because they do get some financial incentive for themselves back out of it. And that means you need to get a second opinion. Now, incentives of the size that I just mentioned almost always mean that it is still to your advantage to use their lender, even if the interest rate is a little bit higher than you might find on the outside. Now, that won't be the case with those 4.99 or 5.99 rates. The builder is actually losing money. It's just hidden behind all the scenes and no one else can see it. And it's just so that they can keep their home prices steady, so that down the road, when rates come down and the inventory and the push and the demand goes back up, that's easy for them to start making more profit. They're essentially losing profit at the backside when they cut rates like that because they have to spend so much on the lending side to do it, but it helps them in the long run. It's just a short-term loss for them for long-term gain. But the point is, when you have a large incentive like a free basement or $75,000 or half off of lot premium, the short-term piece for you, if they are charging you a 0.5% more on interest rate, is probably still better because you can refi out of it later. You aren't tied to this lender for the long term, but it's still better to compare. Now, on the flip side, if you're with a private builder or you're with a small builder, or they send you to a preferred lender who is still outside and not tied to them, and then you find that their rates are higher, their fees are higher, and you're only getting, say, $15,000 in incentives, it may not be worth it. It may be useless to you to use their incentive. So don't just automatically assume that you want what the builder is offering. Always, every time, get a second opinion. Something else to consider, if the incentive is tied to design center use, and maybe you plan to get a very basically designed home because you're essentially house hacking, growing a investment portfolio. So you want a home that is very simple in how you're going to upgrade it because you're going to live in it for 2 years, maybe 1 year, maybe 3 years, and then you plan to rent that out and go and buy your next home. So you don't intend to spend $25,000 in design upgrades. You don't intend to upgrade the flooring throughout the whole home and put in really nice tile and upgraded countertops. Now, honestly, $25,000 is probably still easy to spend on a rental property, and I'd recommend it. Laminate floors throughout, simple quartz countertops, subway white backsplash, something very basic, but maybe that isn't your plan still. Then you may not want to take the builder's incentive if you can find a lower rate elsewhere for a property that you don't have to spend the refi fees on. So there are a lot of pieces to consider depending on what your plans are, not just for today, but down the road. And I do have a lot of people who plan to house hack, if you will, not live there very long, build their portfolio up and move on to the next home. All right, trap number 3, the builder is building your home. Well, technically, no, they're building their home. They've given you the privilege of designing the home that they're building on, say, lot 173. It feels like your home, you're invested, they want you to feel that way. It's a great feeling. You come in, you get to design it, you're making choices, selections along the way, you've put your money down. But here's the thing, and it says it all throughout the contract, it's their home. The builder owns the home. The builder's responsible for the home. The builder pays for all losses. The builder has all the liability. It's the builder's house. They will make sure you know it's their house. They want it to feel good and warm and fuzzy and for you to feel invested. But I have seen many, many times when push comes to shove, and it's never fun. And they make sure you know. They'll point back to the contract, they'll point back to rules, and they have, in fact, on occasion, not with any of my clients, but they have on occasion said, you can hit the road, Jack. This is our house and we'll sell it to someone else. And so just like if you've ever bought an existing home, someone that a seller is selling, and you realize that from the time you go under contract to the period until you close on it, that it's still their house and you have to ask permission to get it inspected and ask permission to visit it again, and you're negotiating with them over what repairs get done. It really is the same way with the builder. We just don't tend to feel that way because we get to walk in during the week and on the weekends and visit and inspect how they're building it and say, hey, you missed that. And so it gets sometimes a little sticky, along with the fact that you've customized the whole thing to your taste, right? You feel like it's your home. Again, most of the time it goes swimmingly well and you feel like it's your home from day one all the way to the end. But just know if there are ever any questions about this, it all goes back to that lovely contract that the builder's attorneys have written to protect the builder and not you, and that will dictate what happens, who's got the rights, what steps are taken next, and typically it doesn't benefit you in any way. Let's talk about some of those hot topic clauses in the contract, like what happens if my house isn't finished and closing is tomorrow? I've just done my last walkthrough, and they said last week when we did our walkthrough that the house was going to be finished, and it's not. I want to hold money back. I don't want to close. I'm not feeling like I want to move in because I don't believe they're going to finish this thing in a timely manner. Well, the contract's going to dictate that. And verbally, how pushy, how desperate the builder is to meet numbers is also going to dictate that. And the culture of each builder is going to dictate that as well. Some are going to put the buyer under their thumb and say, if you don't close, we're going to take your earnest money, put it back on the market, and we're going to sell it to someone else, and you can't have the house. And again, you won't get your earnest money back. And they'll really make you feel forced to buy the home in an unfinished state. Others will say, we totally get it. We want you to have a finished home. We couldn't get to XYZ. Let's push it 2 more days. And if it's ready before then, we'll call you back and ask you to close right away. Are you okay with that? And they expect you to say yes. And it feels much more like a partnership. What I'll tell you is most contracts say if you have a certificate of occupancy on the home, they expect you to close on it. Or what about you're moving cross country? You've got dogs, moving parts, family coming in to help you move possibly, or maybe some serious health issues and some doctor appointments and specialists and things you don't want to transition away from back home before you get here. I've seen all of these. The builder promises you will be closed on time, no problem. Last minute, they move your closing an entire week. You can't change anything back home. You have nowhere to stay here. You can't move your movers. They aren't liable. They can move the date anytime they want. But if you had wanted to move the date, or you had already asked them to because of all the stuff you had going on, they say, no, no way, can't do it, sorry, too bad, so sad. They play hardball. Now what? Yeah, that's in the contract too. So we have to work really hard with the builder to figure that out. Sometimes they say, we were real jerks about that. We'll cover your hotel for a week, or we'll credit you X amount of dollars at the closing table for that. We saw you tried. We can go back to the email chain and we screwed up. Other times, they don't do anything. Probably the biggest one that scares buyers is the inability to get your earnest money back after you've been approved by the lender. The only time there's another clause in there is if the builder lets you be a contingent buyer. And with that comes a whole other layers of rules and timing. Some of them make you put your house on the market within a month and have it sold another month after. Some of them give you a longer period of time. That ebbs and flows with the market conditions. When the market was hot, they didn't bother with contingencies. They had enough buyers lined up that they didn't care about the contingent buyers. Now that it's slower, we're seeing them give a longer period of time and accepting more contingencies. So it always varies. You have to kind of keep your pulse on that. And as I shared in this video of my builder reviews, there are builders out there, particularly the smaller ones, that are happy to pass along any increases in their costs back to the buyer because they don't want to or feel they can't absorb them. So you could contract at one price and close at another if you agree to it by not reading your contract carefully and either getting them to exclude that clause or moving on to a different builder. Before we move off from this topic about it being the builder's house and not yours and tied into the contract, let's talk inspections. Builders love to tell the buyers you don't need a third-party inspector or inspections. Oftentimes inspections are noted in the contract, and typically you'll see the contract say that you are welcome to have a third-party inspection. And it will often say that they will review the inspection reports and make repairs as they see fit. Some language to that they are not required to make those changes, but that they will review them. The builder will tell you they build to code and that once they pass inspections and get permits, that they've really met all the expectations that they need to meet, and that you should feel satisfied with that as well. I will tell you what I tell all of my clients: please get a third-party inspection. And from experience, I see every builder address the majority of the items in the inspection report, and I suspect it has to do with the fact that there is a written record from a well-respected, trained, certified inspector on hand, and they don't want any of that to come back and bite them. All right. Trap number 4, the list price trap. This is different than the home price trap because the list price trap relates to spec homes. This would be a home that you are not building from dirt. It's when you're trying to swoop in and get a deal, but does the list price really mean that's the price you need to pay? If we follow up with a builder and ask about one of their spec homes, they will commonly send us their cost sheet. It will include pretty much all of the things we talked about in step 1. The cost for the elevation, the cost for the lot, the cost for the structural changes, the cost for the design changes. All of that will add up to exactly what they have the home listed for online. Possibly even rolled in there will be current incentives. So we may see in there 3% off of the base price for an incentive, or $75,000 off, or $20,000 off. But if that home has been sitting, does that mean that is still the lowest that the builder's willing to go? Does that mean it is the market value for that home? Nope, not at all. Also, does it mean it's the lowest price the builder has recently sold any of the other homes around it? No. First of all, the lot premium is just pure profit for the builder. That's the first place they slash when the market is struggling. So if we don't see a lot premium discount, that's the first thing we go to. If we don't see a large incentive anywhere else, essentially that incentive anywhere else is coming from the lot premium. That's the thing to know. But they're making profit in every segment of the home. They're making profit at the design center, profit on structural upgrades. The only place they don't make a large amount of profit is just on the base structure of the home. That's the place where they're recouping land development, labor, insurance, carrying costs. So all the other components of the home are profit for the builder. To get the best deal, you need to do your research. You need to see the lowest point at which they've given a sale. You need to understand how much they're doing in sales in recent history, because if they're having a lot of competition and a lot of activity, they are not compelled to give a great deal. And also, how are they structuring their deals? It takes a lot of information to structure the deal the best way for you and get the builder to say yes, but don't think that the list price is the sales price on a spec. At least not in this market. Oh, and before we leave this, make sure you're comparing spec homes to spec homes. So obviously I would think that you're not looking at just one spec home from one builder. If you're seeing one that is maybe $80,000 cheaper than another, look at what is inside the home. Don't necessarily go for the cheapest one. You may be getting more value out of the location of one, along with the finishes of one, as well as who built the home. There are some strong differences between who built the home, but location is a huge piece. No power lines nearby, no road noise nearby, the amenities in the neighborhood, the location and access to the interstate. All of that plays into it, but finishes. If you don't need to come in and update down the road, if there are nice, neutral, lasting look and finishes in a home, it's going to take you a lot farther on your equity growth and resale than something that's a little funky or a little plain. So factor that in as well. Okay, trap number 5. I just mentioned this word. It's the amenity trap. All right, I am a huge fan of amenities in neighborhoods, and I think out here in Colorado, they have a lot of boost to a community and to value. There are very few places where you get community amenities. Highlands Ranch would be the exception. There's no new construction over there. So when we're looking elsewhere, a lot of it is community oriented. We don't have a strong town-based, community-based structure for rec centers and pools and fitness centers. So we're focusing on the neighborhood. The other thing that I find is with so many transplants, people really like to have a neighborhood pool, a neighborhood coffee house, a neighborhood gathering spot, because it lends itself to connecting with people and making friends. The thing is, if you don't ever plan on using it, you're paying for that in the infrastructure, in your metro district taxes, we're going to get to that, and in your HOA fees, some way or another, or all of those. Not every community here that's new is adding amenities or has them. But if they do, you can be sure the builder is going to talk them up, make them seem like a big and wonderful deal, and often they are. But here are some questions to ask and make sure you're not sucked into an amenity trap and then utterly disappointed. First, will you really use them? I just said that. Do you plan to use a pool? Do you have kids and they're going to use them or want them? Do you even like the water? Because that's probably not going to change if you have kids. Will you really put yourself through getting into the pool and going swimming with them? The pools, they're heated, but they don't get that warm. I know I preferred the indoor pools at the Highlands Ranch Rec Center versus any of the outdoor pools. They were never warm enough for my taste coming from Florida beaches. That's just me. But if you don't think you'll ever use them, it may not be worth it. If you love to swim laps and it's a huge part of your exercise, does the community you're going to have lap lanes? Do they have lap hours in the morning? Are they setting up any boundaries where you can actually swim? Or is it all going to be free swim and oriented toward kids and floaties and beer drinking adults? Do these amenities seem to be costing you more for the home? Meaning, could you find the same home, same floor plan, same thing from the builder, somewhere else in a similarly convenient and lovely location for less? Is it all tied to the amenities? And if you're not going to use them, might the other location be a better choice? 3, when will the amenities be ready for use? Some builders are really good at getting the amenities up and running by year 2, maybe summer 3, because the pools just take so long to get dug, built, done, and then we only run them from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Now, if your community is offering a coffee bar, a wine lounge, something indoors, and you're really looking forward to that to gather with friends and meet new people, but they've given you no timeline, is it going to be worth it to you? What if you're coming here but expecting to get relocated in 5 years? Are you really going to get any use out of that amenity? Similarly, number 4, is the set of amenities guaranteed? As in budgeted, planned, promised? Can you see it in writing? Do you know they're going to build them? I will say we don't really see a problem with this here in Colorado. I have yet to see a community tell you there are going to be amenities and then they never show up. But this is not unheard of, and we do hear about it elsewhere. So just push a little bit if the amenity piece is important to you. 5, and this is a more important one, what is the per capita per amenity? So my neighborhood, we have 1 pool for 1,000 homes. There is a beautiful neighborhood in Highlands Ranch. They have 1 pool and a lap pool, so adults only, for over 4,000 homes in the neighborhood. So imagine how crowded the pools get. Our pool gets crowded. People have complained about space and chairs and all of that. So actually the HOA came in, actually not the HOA, the builder, before they handed over the community to the HOA, expanded the deck, added more space for chairs because it really was overcrowded. Our community uses the pool a lot. 1,000 homes for 1 pool. There's a neighborhood across the street from us, 1 pool. They have more homes than we do. So that number here is pretty common. But you need to figure out what is the per capita per amenity for the different amenities, and are you okay with that number? Is it going to be meaningless to you because you don't want to fight for a workout facility? You like a little more quiet at your pool, or you are older or single or don't have kids and you don't want that many kids around, you want something more quiet. I don't know where to send you for a quiet pool, maybe toward a 55 plus, 45 plus community. The kids love their pools around here. Last, number 6, if you're coming in at the tail end of the build, check and see if the amenities are well cared for, well run, kept up. Are they underused? What does that say? Do people not like them for some reason? What would that be? Talk to the residents. How are the pools cared for? Meaning, are there code browns? Do they get pooped in a lot and then closed down? Can they not be used? What is the culture and use and care for like at the amenities in the location you're looking at? Trap number 6. There's no HOA fees in this community. Hey, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? You roll into a community, you're looking at the home prices, you're looking at the homes, the amenities, the location, you're talking to the builder and the salesperson, and you say, tell me, like, what are the schools like? What are the HOA fees? What are the taxes? And they go, well, there are no HOA fees here. And you go, oh, that's fantastic. And maybe they skip over what the taxes are. Maybe they're straight up and they tell you about them. Well, there may not be HOA fees, particularly in some of these new communities, because all of that gets rolled into the Metro District fee, which is part of your taxes. The taxes with new builds are higher. In fact, you will generally not find anything under 1.1%, closer to 1.2%. And as I have shared before, the highest in town right now is 1.4%. Luckily, not here in South Denver, it's up in the north part of Denver. But that is nearly double what you'll find in many parts of the South Denver area for homes that are generally over 10 years old. Around 10 years, we're probably around 0.8%. You get into the 15 to 20 years old, you're maybe at 0.7, 6.5. You get back into the 70s, they're at like 0.5%. To top it off, you could be in a metro district with those high taxes and still have an HOA fee on top of that. I know part of the reason folks look at new build homes is a budget component. They're thinking less maintenance, less expenditure down the road. While I'm getting this new build now, I don't really have to put anything into it other than maybe landscaping, fencing, and window coverings, and it's long-term a better play. Well, take the tax piece into consideration because it really may change the picture for you. Because if you get a somewhat older home, it doesn't have to be one from the 70s that has that older style layout, but sometimes a somewhat older home may benefit you more long-term, particularly if you find one that has had the major mechanicals done and even the updating that you like, or most of it. If you're saving half of your yearly outlay on taxes, it could be $7,000 a year, sometimes more, depending on your price point. Now, if you're curious, I do have one exception for new builds that are still moderate on their tax rate. If you want help negotiating your next spec home or navigating your final walkthrough on a new build, please connect with me. I would love to help, and I will see y'all next week.